Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Estiloz for El Mundo Boston, and I'm here with the amazingly talented, indeed the iconic actress and performer, Rita Moreno. Welcome back to Boston.
Where is she? Where? Oh,
She's here somewhere.
hi.
What's it like being back here in Boston?
I love it. My daughter went to Tufts, and I've performed here a bunch of times in the past. And it's just a gorgeous city. It's a wonderful state. And we were here a lot when my daughter Fernanda, was at Tufts. So we're very familiar with the city and the town, and I love it. And the food is fabulous.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you enjoy most about Boston besides the food?
Oh, just about everything. I love the people. I love that charming accent. You know, the usual packing the cat thing, but I think it's charming.
Well, in the time that you've been, going back and forth, our Latino community has just been growing, particularly our Puerto Rican community, as well as many others. What are your thoughts about that? How proud are you?
I hear about that. I didn't know that. I know there are specific towns where there is a rather large Hispanic population, and I couldn't be happier. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. I think it's good for the community, and I think it's good for Boston.
Now, you're here at the Berklee College of Music. You're going to be receiving an honorary doctorate. You've received so many honors over the course of your illustrious career. What makes this one unique?
Oh, no. This one is really very, very special. For starters, I rarely accept those because I really honestly feel that half the people who want to honor me, I don't think I deserve those. I'm not being modest. I believe that with all my heart, and I've turned down a number of them. But this is something in my profession that, Berklee School of Music has an enormous reputation, and for good reason. And I am very, very proud to be receiving this tomorrow. In addition to that, I have a dear little friend whose unofficial aunt I am, and that's a young woman named Emily Estefan, who is the daughter of Emilio and Gloria Estefan.
I think we've heard of him.
So it's going to be a fabulous day. She's thrilled because she and I are really quite close. And there's going to be a big family lunch after the actual event, and I am really so excited. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to do a commencement speech that is like no other, and I wish I could tell you, but I think it's going to make a lot of news.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, so let's ask it in maybe a slightly different way. You don't want to tell what the commencement speech is going to be about, but what sort of message do you want to use this opportunity to speak to Latino youth, graduates?
The message doesn't change that all much. You really have to remind these young people that life is tough and that they need to persevere. Particularly kids who are outliers, who are not just Latino, but Black and perhaps Asian. And I think the important thing is to tell them to persevere. All of that is in this talk, but I'm doing it in such a very unusual and special way. I can't wait because I know, as sure as I'm sitting here, that as soon as I start it, there's going to be a roar, and I'm going to have to stop for a moment.
Now, your career has spanned nearly 7 decades, yet you are still beautiful, you are vibrant, you are inspiring. So, over the course of that illustrious career, I have to imagine there were also some professional challenges. What were they, and how did you overcome them?
Perseverance is the name of the game, really. That's, I think, my middle name. And there were challenges. There were tons of challenges. When I went into films, 17 years old, I'm 84 now, there was no room, really, for a young Latina woman. I mean, I was 17 at the time. And it was either swim or drown. And I chose to swim. And it was difficult, and it was insulting, and it was hurtful, and it was to some very important extent damaging because I was made to feel that I had very little value. That I even ended up in films is to me now especially astonishing. There was nobody else like me. Really nobody else like me. My role model was Elizabeth Taylor, for want of someone who looked like me. And that went on for a very, very long time. And it's a question of, when you get knocked down, of doing the cliche, which is to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the message also in my commencement speech tomorrow. Don't give up. Don't let people play with your focus and what your intentions are and your objectives. You can be what you want to be. It may be extremely difficult. You may cry a lot. You may rage a lot, but it is possible. You really have to be made of very stern stuff. Mm-hmm. And particularly in my profession, where there's rejection is an everyday thing. Every job to get is hard. Everything. It's not easy. But in my profession, you can't show people your A's and your B's, your B pluses, and your special recommendations in school. It means nothing. Acting, being an actress or a dancer or a singer, it's a whole nother thing.
But I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that after the height, or one of the heights of your career, winning the Oscar for West Side Story, that you took a bit of a break from performing or acting.
I didn't take a break. I was given a break.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, that's what happened is that I had apparently, according to this business, I had played the ultimate Hispanic, and there was nothing for me. Nothing. I didn't do, after West Side Story, I did not do, and winning the Oscar and winning the Golden Globe. I didn't do a film for 7 years, and it was not out of choice. Well, to some extent it was, because I was offered more gang roles, and I thought, well, no. I tucked my little gold man under my arm, and I said, that day is over. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to have to speak with an accent all the time. And, funnily enough, I'm doing that right now in a new series I'm going to do, but that's a whole different story. So I was heartbroken. I was actually heartbroken that I could not land a job in a movie.
And yet you showed them, because you came back and not only won the Oscar, you won an Emmy, you won a Tony, you won a Golden Globe, and you've won a Grammy. The only Latina to have ever done something like that. Of all of those awards...
I have 2 Emmys, but who's counting?
Indeed. I am right now. She's got 2, okay? So don't ever forget that. So with all of those wonderful awards and many others, can you pick one award that stands out, that resonates for you personally, the most important?
Well, of course, it's the Oscar. That is the pinnacle in the sense that it's the big one. So it's just very, very, very special. It has a special place in my living room. But then also all the others do too. They're fabulous. They don't get you jobs, though. People don't get that. Those things don't get you jobs. I'll bet you anything that there are ever so many people who don't even know that I won the Oscar at some point in my life. The mamas and the papas do in the Hispanic community.
I love you in West Side Story. I've seen that thing into the double digits.
Yeah, but I'll bet it's because of your family, too.
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
true.
The family is, you have to respect this woman. Do you see how far she's gotten? And she's Puerto Rican, and she came from nothing, and blah, blah, blah. All the kids hear that about me, which is lovely.
Well, you started your career so early. You've traversed so many different paths here. If you were able to go back with all that experience that you have in your mind right now, what would you tell the young Rita Moreno, the 21-year-old Rita Moreno who is just getting started, knowing what you know now?
I would tell them the very thing that we've already talked about, which is that you have to persevere, and that there is one thing I forgot to mention, and this is really important. You have to work at it. You have to study. If you're going to learn how to play the piano, you really have to learn how to do it, don't you? You have to have a teacher, and you have to practice. Well, the same thing for acting. A lot of young people, especially, by the way, some Latino kids and black kids, I want to be a star. Well, what does that mean to you? Well, the cars, the shoes, all the fancy clothes, and a lot of that still exists. And some kids have, just natural talent, which is wonderful. But what they don't have is technique. What is technique? Technique is learning how to repeat a performance night after night after night in the theater, say, and make it still good and not get bored. And they'll say, oh, God, I don't want to do a matinee and a nighttime performance today. It's Wednesday, okay? You really, really have to work at it. Just being charming and funny and beautiful and having big breasts is not the answer.
You mentioned earlier that you're going to be part of this new reboot of the Norman Lear series, One Day at a Time. Tell us about that and your role in it.
I am so thrilled about that. First of all, I've always wanted to work with Norman Lear, and it just never happened. Just for those people who don't know, he's, among other things, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, and One Day at a Time, which, by the way, ran for 9 years. He just told me that yesterday. We are doing a reboot of One Day at a Time, but this time with a Cuban family. And we just did our very first, filmed our very first episode with an audience, literally the day before yesterday. And they loved it. They laughed a lot. And what is unusual about the writing of this particular series is that it's not only funny, it has some very sweet and tender moments. You don't see that. You know, it's always joke, 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 joke. This is about a real working class family. Interestingly enough, just recently, a few days ago, I read in the Times, that the New York Times, that there seem to be very few working class series. This is definitely that, and it is deliciously funny. I play the grandmother. No, I play the mother of the young woman, and I play in fact, I wear a dark-haired wig.
Oh, I can't wait to see this.
Because I'm supposed to be younger. and luckily, I look pretty good.
You look beautiful, please.
No, I mean for 84.
Yeah.
And if we have dark hair, I look younger than I am. And we have 2 kids who are wonderful. That's rare. And who are also not acting brats. They're just terrific kids. They're Hispanic. The leading lady is Justina Machado, whom everybody says, who? You all know her. She's been in so many, many TV shows and movies. And you will know her. So it is a joy. I can't wait to see what the second episode is going to bring, but I can tell you it's wild and funny.
Now, you're a strong Latino woman. You also have very strong ideas. So I want to ask a couple of serious topics. You're born in Puerto Rico, came to America at a very young age. Puerto Rico is going through some difficult times now. So what are your thoughts on that? And because it must strike you very close to home, clearly, literally.
It strikes me very close to home, and I'm happy to say it struck John Oliver, the wonderful English comedian.
Not Puerto Rican.
Very not Puerto Rican. He devoted his whole show to that only about a week ago, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's a friend of mine also, did a rap about that. It is a heartbreaking situation. And how, for some bizarre reason, this little country, which is part of America for all intents and purposes, cannot declare Chapter 11 is beyond me. Nobody in Washington seems to understand how that happened, how that little country, which is definitely a part of America, is not allowed to declare bankruptcy. So it's a horrible situation. It's as though everything has gone wrong. This tropical island had a horrific drought just a few weeks ago. A drought in a tropical country. All kinds of, there's been a big exodus of people leaving the country because they need work. I mean, it's just, it's mind-blowing what's happening there, and I feel awful about it, and I'm hopeful that that's going to change in terms of America helping them out.
2 final questions. Clearly, the Latino community is concerned with the candidacy of Donald Trump. What are your thoughts on that?
Frankly,
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I think he's a crude, vulgar liar. I think he is only out for Donald Trump. I think he's a dreadful person. These are my thoughts. He is a dreadful person. He's an awful liar. He invents things. He plays so dirty. Oh, my God. Remember when he took the picture of his wife?
But what danger does he present to our community directly, in your opinion?
Well, it's not just our community, it's to America. You can't just think in Latino terms. Obviously, he has no idea of who we are. I mean, we are, in terms of his thinking, we are rapists and murderers. But think of what he might do. He's a hothead. This is a man who's going to have his finger on that button if he becomes president. That is so frightening to me. And I'm absolutely thrilled that Paul Ryan came out and said, I just can't find my way to supporting this man. I mean, think of it. He is despised by a certain segment of the population. He is adored and worshipped by another segment of the population. And you know what's interesting about him is that he has brought out all of the people, all of the racist people, all of the people who are misogynistic. He's brought it out. All these people who've been hiding this for years because they didn't have someone to support them have come out on force. And I think that's a good thing, because I think we have to understand, we on the other side have to understand that there are a lot of those people around, and that we have to really get on our horse and do something about that.
Closing on a much more positive note,
hope
and
so.
about you. Many in our community, as well as beyond, see you as a role model, as a performer role model, as a person who we can aspire to admire. Some people wear that crown very well. Some have difficulty with it. How do you see yourself in that role?
I am always very humbled by that. I'm amazed because, for instance, this is a good example, even though it seems as though I'm dropping a very big event. When I got the Kennedy Center honors in December of last year, the first thing that came to mind when I was told, when my manager said, okay, sit down, I immediately saw myself in Puerto Rico as a little girl. This happens all the time when something great happens to me. And I saw myself as this little girl playing with those tiny little frogs that they have in Puerto Rico, they're called coqui. And I see myself in these very humble surroundings. And I just think, who would have thunk? I can never get over it. I am not casual about some of the hardware on my shelves, and not at all. Every honor is very special, as is this honor at Berkeley School of Music tomorrow. I'm not casual about it. I'm a woman who really knows how to smell the roses, or the coffee, as they say. I appreciate every single moment of this amazing life at 84. It's fantastic.
Y dice un mensaje a nuestra comunidad en Boston, directamente desde tu corazón.
Mira, yo hablo de mi corazón y quiero decirle solo a mi comunidad que me siento muy, muy orgullosa de ser esta persona, esta mujer que ha tenido tanto éxito, tanto privilegio, tanta suerte. Y me encanta que Boston tiene una comunidad latina. Y también que uno tiene que llevar su hispanidez como una bandera, con orgullo.
It has been a pleasure to speak with you once again. We met years ago, and it's equally just as enjoyable as it was the first time.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so very much. We've been here speaking with the amazing Rita Moreno. A pleasure for me. I know a pleasure for you. I'm Tim Estiloz for El Mundo Boston.